Everybody. Today we're going to, or I'm going to give a brief description and demonstration of how a organization leader would go about applying for SAC funding. So many of you as organization leaders are probably familiar or relatively familiar with Bobcat Connect, but in case you are not, this is the main page that you are taken to whenever you log in, and it has all kinds of different resources for you. But specifically today, we are going to be dealing with your specific membership with your organization who would be applying for SAC funding. So as example for today, I'm going to be using Ohio University Student Senate as my organization. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click your organization to get to your organization's homepage, and then you're going to want to go to your Manage Organization button and click on that, and it will take you to a new tab that brings you to this page, and it's very important that you're able to get here. Alternatively, some of you may know that you can go to Manage and you can get yourself to your management page, and then from there you'll have just like you did on your homepage, have My Memberships. And if you go to your organization again, it'll take you to this same tab. But as long as you get here, that's what's important. And so you'll notice on your left, there's this menu that has all kinds of organization tools. So things like your roster or the different documents and forms and so forth. Specifically today, we're going to be dealing with the finance tab on or the finance tool for your organization. And so when you get to this page, you're going to notice that there's different types of finance requests that are available on Bobcat. As SAC, we tend not to use purchase or funding requests. We use budget requests. And so as you can see that there are some examples here of budget requests that either not have been submitted yet, or if your organization had submitted some in the past, they might be approved or denied, or still pending if there wasn't a decision made on it yet. But this is a list of all of your different active or inactive budget requests. Today, I'm going to show you how you would make a new one. So from this page, you're going to want to go up to the big blue button in the right corner that says Create Request. And as I said, we use budget requests, not purchase or funding requests. So you're going to want to click on Budget Request, and it's going to take you to this next page. And this is kind of a page with all of the different budget processes. And so Bobcat Connect refers to them as processes, but we as Student Senate and SAC refer to it as budget cycles. And so you might be familiar with the fact that SAC has two different types of funding cycles, a semesterly and a biweekly funding cycle. And so there are times late in the year where it's possible that we might have two different funding cycles running at the same time. So you might have multiple options in here, but generally you'll know what you're looking for if you're looking for semesterly or if you're looking for biweekly. The main difference between them is that biweekly, as the name suggests, we review those applications every 2 weeks and allocate the money in a kind of faster time, but there's a funding cap on that. So if organizations have their events planned out in advance, like say a semester before, then they can apply for semesterly funding instead without the worry of having a funding cap. And in addition, we tend to say that semesterly funding is a little less competitive than biweekly funding. So it's possible that you have a greater opportunity for your events being funded if you start out early and request semesterly funding. So today, for the example, I'm going to use our most recent funding cycle that we had running. And so this cycle or process was called Fall 2020 Modified Semesterly Funding. And so once we click on that hyperlink, it's going to take us to the first page in your budget application or your budget request. And so it's going to ask you for a title, and anything that has this little star up here means that it's mandatory. So we require that you have a title. A lot of times people will maybe reference the funding cycle in it or reference the specific events. So if, for example, Student Senate was having a concert, then that's what I would do. And we tend to urge you to include a description because we feel as though your chances of being funded are higher the more information that you provide the SAC body. But obviously that's not required. So you could skip that in theory if you wanted to. Next, we're going to go to the next tab in your budget request, and that's just some additional information. And so generally, the reason why we need all this information is to, be able to accurately review the status of your organization and so forth to make sure that you are eligible for SAC funding. And we also make sure that we gather all of the different contact information for the individual who is filling out this form so that we can help them or contact them if there's any problems, or eventually contact them based on the approval or denial of the form itself. And so the first question has to do with attending a SAC funding workshop. And so obviously this is for the previous school year, but I'm fairly certain that this year your funding workshop is basically just going to consist of this video. But I'm sure that in the future it's possible that this video might be being used as a supplement to the funding workshop. So you're going to want to click yes if that's true. If no, then we will probably reach out to you. The reason why a funding workshop or a video like this is important is because eventually we're going to get to the budget, and there are a lot of times that people have problems with their budget and it might disqualify them from being able to receive funding. So we urge people to, and we try to educate them as best as possible. So some other information is like asking you what date you attended the workshop. Some really important parts are the contact information for the person who is submitting this application or this request. And so you would want to put in your name as the individual who is filling out this form, and then you'd want to put in your email as well. And that's really important because we want to make sure that, as I said before, we can contact you if necessary, and feel free to put in your phone number as well, just in case. And so this next part over here is extremely important. And so your 4-digit account number is how we are able to allocate this money to you, or more specifically how the CIC, the Campus Involvement Center, is able to allocate this money. So it's very important that you put down the correct 4-digit account number. And if you don't know how to get to that 4-digit account number, I'm going to go back to my organization's main page. So this isn't the management page. This is just the main page for your organization. If you go down to additional information, you'll see that your account number is listed in your Bobcat Connect information. And the CIC uploads this onto your Bobcat account, your Bobcat organization's account, automatically for you, so you don't have to worry about finding this number. You should just always have it here. And if you don't, then obviously it's important to contact the Campus Involvement Center. But once you have that number, then you can even copy and paste it per se, and make sure that you put the right one in there. And then it's a lot of this other information is asking you some details of the specifics of your organization. So it might ask you how many members, or if you charge dues, and so forth. And this is all information that helps us make decisions as a SAC body on the approval or denial of your funding. This is also a really important question because it asks you if you fall under an umbrella organization. There's all kinds of different colleges, or there's the big three organizations that allocate SAC funds through their own systems, and we just give them their money in the beginning of the fiscal year, and they take care of the organizations that fall under their branch. And so the current precedent when it comes to your affiliation with an umbrella organization is if you were, for example, an organization that is managed by the International Student Union, which is one of the big three, and you wanted to apply for SAC funding in the beginning of the year, you're welcome to do that, but that will disqualify you from trying to ask for any funding from ISU. So the point of this is that we don't want to encourage any double dipping. So obviously the alternative is that you ask for funding through ISU, and therefore then you would be disqualified from asking SAC directly for funding. We tend to urge or recommend that you just apply for the funding through your umbrella organization, because generally it tends to be less competitive. But by all means, you are welcome to apply for SAC funding if you want. You just need to understand that we don't allow any kind of double dipping, and this like double dipping rule resets every semester. So you're able to apply for funding and stuff like that, and then once that semester is over in which you've received funding, then the next semester you would be able to apply from your umbrella organization or so forth instead. And then obviously we're just asking for some more specifics and stuff like that. This question is kind of important because of the fact that SAC over the past few years has become so much more competitive. So it's important that you explain to us, what are the different sources and so forth that you are looking into funding opportunities, because the most basic way we can say this is that SAC doesn't have the type of we don't have the amount of money that would be required to to support every single event and every single student programming opportunity. So therefore, we have to prioritize certain events over others, and so there's a lot of precedent that is set in that. And if you ever have any questions regarding that, you're absolutely always able to reach out to SAC. And so then obviously we also ask if your organization is covering any of the expenses from the money that's already in your account. And like I said before, this is all the kind of information that we use to make a better decision on how we can fund you. So just to be able to move on to the next section, I'm going to make sure that I have information in every single one of these required questions. Obviously, I just put in some random numbers, so you would want to put in real information. The next part of the additional information is just a little bit more clear information about your organization, so the purpose and mission, and then we're going to want you to describe the different events that you're having. If you're having multiple events or single events, then if it's just a single event you're applying for, then it will move you faster through the application process. But if you are applying for multiple events, then you will have to fill out an extra page where it has you list the different information on the different events that you're applying for, so that we know how to differentiate when we're looking at your budget. So for example, and sometimes people are not even applying for an event at all. They might be applying for equipment. So not applicable would be, would be the category that you would fall under. But for the sake of this video, at first I'm going to do multiple events so that you can see how that would look. And so we give you a maximum of 10 different events. If you needed more, then you could just submit another budget request. But you would name the different events and so forth, and then you would, signify that you had registered these events on Bobcat Connect, and this better enables us to differentiate the different types of funding you're asking for on your actual budget. If we went back and we chose single event, you'd see that you with a single event, you also have to register that event. But if you're not registering events at all, then it will just move you forward through this process. And so another important part of Student Senate is sustainability and funding priority. So as I talked about, not only are we, is SAC funding very competitive, so we want to ask you clearly what parts of your budget should be prioritized so that we know what to prioritize if we have to do partial funding for your budget. But we also want to know how you are prioritizing sustainability, because we as a university think that environmental sustainability is really important. So we want to know how you are going to promote sustainability, because a lot of the reasoning why we might be able to fund an event over the other might pertain to the environmental sustainability and stability from the specific event. After that, you would answer another question, and it's just a student code of conduct, just ensuring that you understand all of the different stipulations of SAC and so forth. And the really important part of this is the fact that funds are audited back if you aren't unable to turn in receipts for the purchases you made within 45 days of the event or activity. So if you purchase these type of stuff with the funds that are allocated to your account before your organization, before the organization's event takes place, then you are not required to turn in the receipts 45 days after the purchase. You're only required to turn in these receipts 45 days after the actual event itself. So you may have more time than 45 days, but the bottom line is that 45 days after the event has occurred, if you have not turned in your receipts, then the funds will be audited back. So even if you've made the purchases, those funds will still come out of your organization's accounts. So therefore, you will not. So you would have basically paid for those through your organization's personal or operational funds. And so you definitely want to make sure that you pay careful attention to that. And then we also ask about the student code of conduct and the type of responsibility as you as an event coordinator with the Office of Community Standards and the Campus Involvement Center. So you're definitely most of you are probably going to be able to say yes there. And so now we move on to the budget, which is a very critical part. And so you have a lot of different sections within this budget form. And so you might want to include certain parts into the event or programming section. Often we get like honorariums and things like that added to this event or programming section. Or we have marketing and printing. So sometimes you might want to do a flyer, or you might want to do some kind of digital marketing strategy that you're asking for funds for. I will say specifically when it comes to digital type things such as websites or podcasts or digital marketing, opportunities in any way, generally we need to require you to have gotten permission for this type of thing through Ohio IT. So there are some things that we already know of that people have permission for sure. But sometimes, like if you're trying to purchase a website and so forth, there's requirements that OIT has based on security. So you're going to have to make sure that you meet those requirements separately. And so obviously you can contact SAC or you can contact Ohio IT to make sure that you are fulfilling those requirements. And then you could also possibly be asking for equipment, supplies, and rentals. And so generally supplies and rentals you can get complete SAC funding for, but specifically when it comes to equipment. So for example, if you are maybe an organization that films short movies and so forth, you might have filming equipment, and SAC is only able to cover the cost up to 50% for equipment. So that means that if you're buying or if you're renting a $1,000 camera for your filming, since that's equipment, we're only able to provide you with $500 worth for that equipment. So your organization would have to be able to come up with the other half. And then obviously we have a miscellaneous section. I will say that when it comes to things like honorariums and so forth, and anything in general, um, a there's a really important other consideration for any time you're including um, an item to any of these sections. So um, that really important item is called it's these documents that we call price documentation. So we require this, like I said, these documents called price documentation, and some of you may be familiar with what price documentation is, and some of you might be less familiar, but the bottom line is that we allow you to upload a photo or I mean, maybe it could be a range of different things, but a good example that I like to use is if you were, for example, buying chips from Walmart, then I would find these specific items that you are trying to purchase. So let's say you're trying to purchase this box of Pringles, then you're going to want to get to the page for that purchase. And you'll see that the price is there and exactly what you're buying is there. And so a great example of price documentation would be just taking a screenshot of this, like of this screen right here, of your browser right here. And then you can save that as probably like a PNG or JPEG or something like that, and you'll be able to upload it. And obviously there's a lot of different resources that you could go to for help. If you ever have any questions about price documentation, that's definitely something that we receive a lot of questions about. So feel free to reach out to SAC, because this is extremely important, because we cannot fund anything that doesn't have proper price documentation. Something that I will say right now is that a lot of people tend to just include maybe a spreadsheet where they listed what they're buying and the cost of it and then the quantity of it, and they did the math calculation to come up with a total. We cannot accept just spreadsheets or something like that as price documentation. Like I said, we need actual guarantee that that is the price of what you are talking about purchasing, and that you have something specific in mind when you are going to make this purchase. And so, like I said, I always like to use the screenshot of the Walmart website as a great example. But maybe when it comes to like an honorarium, you might have an email from the speaker or guest that you're bringing, and that email might be saying, yeah, yes, I agree to a $2,000 honorarium. And so all you have to do is send us that email, and it should include, like, have their name on it, obviously, and then just that confirmation of exactly, how much it's going to cost to purchase that type of thing. Like I said, price documentation is probably the number one thing that people struggle on, and so that's why they get discluded, or their budget gets returned to them, and so forth. So it's something definitely to spend time making sure that you have correct price documentation. And you can also include different, like, separations for these budget sections for different events that you're having. So if you were having 10 events like we talked about before, then you would probably want to split it in to your different events so that we're easily able to see the differentiations. As long as it's pretty, logically linear and self-evident. Like I said, we just want to make sure that we can fund anything that we can fund and anything that the budget allows us to fund. So just make sure that you pay very careful attention to your budget. And as I said a billion other times during this presentation, if you have questions or you need help with your budget, there are always SAC representatives that are able to help you. And you can obviously for this semester, it would be better if you would contact us online. But generally, we have the Student Senate office in Baker, and you'd be able to come in, and there should be somebody at our specific SAC desk to answer any of these questions. Obviously, if you ever need any more information about like Student Senate office hours or how to contact SAC and stuff like that, you can go to Student Senate or you can go to SAC either through Bobcat Connect, or um, you can email and so forth. So just feel free to reach out if you have questions. But after you would include parts of your budget, then you would click submit, and now we see that out of all of these different budget requests that I have, and these were the three different budget requests that you saw before that were just random ones that weren't submitted, we can see that this is submitted. And so also, if I went back to my management page for Student Senate, and I went to my finance section like we are supposed to when we're dealing with budget stuff, and I went to my budget request, you can see the same thing that we just saw after there. You can see that all of these have the status of not yet submitted because I hadn't done those, but this one was just submitted, and you can see how much it's asking for. Obviously, I didn't include anything, but this is ready to go then, and so as the SAC body reviews it and so forth, we would send back correspondence, either sending the budget back to you because there's problems, or approving it or denying it. But regardless of anything that happens, you should receive correspondence from a SAC representative explaining the situation, whether it's an approval, denial, or if they're pushing it back to you for an alteration. I think that that's a pretty good stopping point for this presentation. Obviously, that it's a pretty streamlined process. I know I just said it, but if you have any questions or concerns, definitely reach out to SAC, and the CIC can also possibly help you, or just send you in our direction. But I wish you guys all luck for submitting these SAC applications, and stay healthy, everybody.